Okay folks, so I was going through some news headlines today, wondering perhaps maybe if any of the mainstream news outlets will be covering this year's Bilderberg meeting. You know, that annual meeting of 130 of the world's most powerful people in business, politics and banking, and some royalty as well. Quite an important day, you'd think. We're coming off a recession, lots of war going on all around the world. It might be of interest to the public to hear these people talk on such matters. So I went to the BBC, the impartial beacon of news, to see if there was any news on this Bilderberg meeting this year. And this is the headline that came up. Bilderberg mystery. Why do people believe in cabals? Are you fucking kidding me? It's 2011. Grow the fuck up. There's a Wikipedia page. There's an official website. There are videos of politicians talking about attending the Bilderberg meeting. Some mainstream news, like Russia Today, do cover the Bilderberg meeting. And still, all we get from the BBC is an attack on conspiracy theorists. Who are the mentally ill people here? Citizens who would like to know some of the discussion topics of the world's elite? Or the BBC who don't even think it's worth covering? What news editor sits there and goes, "Oh, 130 of the world's most powerful people, you say? Nah, it's not worth it. Nobody will read a story about that. Pointless." What? It's 130 of the world's most powerful people. If you can't get a story out of that, then you shouldn't be a fucking news editor. If 130 football players met in secret each year, I'm pretty sure we'd see some major headlines on it. And then of course they pull the old, "Oh, if you believe in Bilderberg, you must be mentally ill." Check this audio out that was on the page for this article on the BBC. Completely ridiculous.
I would say only a small minority had mental health difficulties, maybe 1 or 2%. Most of them, it was a political and social phenomenon. It was toxic distrust of public institutions, and they had been radicalized over the internet or through political propaganda, but they did not, for the most part, have clinical mental health issues.
Oh, okay, so only a few of us are actually mentally ill. Most of us were just brainwashed by people on the internet. We didn't look at the facts and come to a reasonable conclusion based on lots of different sources. We're either mentally ill or brainwashed. Glad we got that clear. Let's carry on.
You focus a lot of the book on the truthers, the ones who believe that 9/11 didn't happen in the ways commonly described, it was some conspiracy, don't you?
Yes, in fact, originally my book was just going to be about 9/11 truth activists. These are the folks who, as you say, believed 9/11 was an inside job by the Bush government. But what I found was that when I interviewed these people, they embraced a whole bunch of other conspiracy theories. And it became clear to me that conspiracism had become a sort of creed for these people. And it wasn't just about 9/11, it was about all of society.
Well, give us the psychology of this. What is it in the head that drives otherwise sane people to believe weird and wacky things?
Perhaps it's a brain that works and can think for itself.
Well, as I say, the universal aspect is distrust. Distrust of government, distrust of media, distrust of organized religion in many cases, distrust of all public institutions in society.
Wait, did you just say distrust of media? Maybe that's because instead of covering a meeting of 130 of the world's most powerful people, the BBC decides to get you on to label people that do want to look into this as mentally ill. Perhaps that's why there's distrust of the media, because they're not doing their job.
But I also think that there is an impulse to align ideology with facts. They want to make the world, as they imagine it, appear like the world as it is. So, for instance, in the case of a 9/11 conspiracy theorist, in some cases he might be a very left-wing ideologue who believes that all evil originates with the United States. And then when 9/11 happened, which was evil perpetrated against the United States, he suffered cognitive dissonance because ideology conflicted with reality. The conspiracy theory then became a way to reconcile the two.
Yeah, nice theory you've got there, mate. And I emphasise the word theory. I always find it funny when people have to create theories to debunk theories. You're just a conspiracy theorist yourself, really, aren't you? But if you can find me a 9/11 truther that actually believes in left-right politics, then I will eat my computer screen. There's no left-wing truthers. What are you gibbering on about? And if you want to talk about cognitive dissonance, then just look at the media's coverage of Bilderberg. They have to make it out to be a big joke and do articles and interviews like this one, because in their superficial worldview, where all there is loving liberals on one side and warmongering right-wingers on the other, there can't possibly be an apolitical group of people that meet in secret to plan world affairs, because it would destroy their bubble. And I mean, what do you think they talk about? The kids and the golfing tournament? I'll tell you what they talk about, because they tell us what they talk about. You just don't put it on the news. This is what the official website of Bilderberg says about last year's meeting. They'll be talking about financial reform, security, cyber technology, energy, Pakistan, Afghanistan, world food problem, global cooling, social networking, medical science, and EU-US relations. But it's all a conspiracy, and we're all mentally ill.
Interesting. You used the word he in that answer, and it is usually men, you found.
Oh yes, very much. You do sometimes see women at conspiracy theory conventions, but typically they're the bored girlfriends of conspiracy theorists who drag them there. And part of this just goes to the highly technical, somewhat adolescent nature of conspiracist mythology. There is a large focus on weaponry and secret agents and the technical details of these conspiracies, which often seems like something out of Buck Rogers or science fiction. And as a result, it primarily appeals to the male mind.
You came to the belief that you can't cure a conspiracy theorist of belief in conspiracies.
Oh, damn it, you can't cure us. I'll just have to stay sick forever then, shall I? Do we get a parking space, or...?
That's right. This is an admission I make in the final chapter, that after 2.5 years of research, I can confess that I did not win a single argument with a conspiracy theorist about their underlying theory. And that is because of the nature of conspiracy theorist argumentation, which is that when presented with contrary evidence, they simply expand the imagined conspiracy to swallow the evidence.
They may as well be talking about themselves. How many times have you presented quotes by politicians about the New World Order? Or how many times have you presented testimony of explosions throughout the Twin Towers or the partial free-fall collapse? And instead of accepting or looking into the evidence, they just try and explain it away because it doesn't fit in with their worldview. They may as well be talking about their own psychology.
And so in my book, I focus on preventing people from embracing conspiracy theories, because once they go down the rabbit hole of conspiracism, it's almost impossible to bring them back.
There are some patterns in the conspiracy theories, aren't there, about small groups of evildoers, and these things recur in different conspiracies, don't they?
Yes, and this is the reason that early in the book, I dedicate a chapter to the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, which of course is a notorious hoax that was popularized after World War I in Europe. And I go through the protocols very carefully to show what has become the universal blueprint for conspiracy theories. Now, I want to emphasize to your listeners that not all modern conspiracy theories are anti-Semitic. Many focus on other groups. However, the basic structure of the conspiracy theory, of a small group of people who control world events, and especially wars and financial depressions, for their own gain.
Oh no, of course, because wars are never waged for oil based on lies like WMDs. Never.
That basic structure has been replicated in all sorts of conspiracy theories. However, what they've done is they've changed the names. So instead of Jews, you have Bilderbergers or New World Order, or the Vatican, for instance, has become very popular. And the basic structure has been preserved, but the Jews have gotten off the hook. In some cases, you do still have anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists, but they are in the minority.
Jonathan Kay, author of Among the Truthers, A Journey Through America's Growing Conspiracist Underground. Thank you very much indeed.
No, thank you, BBC, because the more of this bullshit that you pump out, the more people are going to realise that you're incompetent morons. And for the people that are awake, all you're doing is impassioning them to carry on. So if you want some truth about Bilderberg, folks, because yes, it does exist, keep your eye on the alternative media or with investigative journalists like Daniel Esselin, who still have the balls to do their job properly.